Mm.
Hello, and welcome to ConTinual, the convention that never ends. My name is Jean Marie Ward, and tonight, this episode of Hot Off the Press is the anthology edition. We've got authors from 3, maybe more, wonderful anthologies, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting with Jody.
Good evening. I'm Jody Lynn Nye. I write science fiction and fantasy, mostly humorous, published over 56 books and 175 short stories, and I am the coordinating judge for the Writers of the Future contest.
Cool. Keith?
Hi, I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido. You can't see me right now because I'm actually operating a motor vehicle as we do this. I have written a ridiculous amount of fiction, for including close to 60 novels now. Not quite 100 short stories yet, but at the rate I'm going, I'm going to hit that soon, as well as a bunch of comic books and a whole lot of pop culture commentary for places like Tor.com and other websites, magazines, and essay collections. And probably some other stuff, too, that I can't remember because, A, I'm driving, and B, I really don't get a lot of sleep.
The writer's trial.
I have a lot. For some reason, 2022 is the year of the short story for me. So while I'll be talking about one of my anthologies for sure, there's a few others floating around too. So I don't know why it just worked out that way this year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Adam?
My name is Adam Troy Castro. I'm up to 28 books, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and a series of children's books. Mm-hmm. And the number of short stories is approaching 200 very quickly.
Wow. Okay, Henry.
Hi, my name is Henry Herz, and I got my start writing children's picture books. I have 12 titles out, but in the last few years, I started writing short stories for middle grade, young adult, and adult. And I've got a story in a middle grade anthology called Coming of Age, come from Albert Whitman. And of course, we've got what we're going to talk about today, the 3 Time Travelers anthology.
Okay, great. Allen?
Hi, I'm Allen Steele. I've published 22 novels now and 9 collections of short fiction and 1 book of nonfiction essays. And my most recent work has been the Captain Future series, where I've revived Edmund Hamilton's space opera hero of the 1940s and updated them and brought them back to life.
Cool. Okay, Joshua?
Hey, my name's Joshua Palmatier. I write fantasy novels. I've had 9 published, and I'm working on the next trilogy as we speak. I also started editing anthologies, and along the way created a small press called Zombies Need Brains. We've been producing themed anthologies for quite a while now. We're going into year 10 this year. I think we've got 22 anthologies out, something like that. And I'm here to talk about our 3 most recent ones coming out in about a month. And we're also starting up a new science fiction fantasy magazine called ZNB Presents. That's starting up in July.
Cool. Very cool. And Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Scott Shelley. I write contemporary romance, both on my own and with my co-writer, Chantel Mayer. And I have, with both those combined things, close to 30 novels out now.
Oh, God, you all make me feel like a slacker. What can I say? Susan, I'm going to start with you because you have a very special anthology project in the works right now. Yep. Could you please tell us a bit about the anthology itself, where it's going, and some of the authors that are involved?
Sure. So my anthology is the Love Is All anthology, and it is volume 5. So this is the 5th year we've been doing this project. It was put together by my friend Zio Axelrod, and we put it out in Pride Month, and all of the royalties are donated to organizations that protect and defend LGBTQ rights. And every year we've picked either 1 or 2 different organizations, and this year I'm really happy that the royalties will be going to the Matthew Shepard Foundation and also Equality Texas. So there's 9 stories this year. Chantal and I co-wrote one, and they're all different across whether it's friends to lovers, teammates, all a mix of that. But we have some really great authors I'm really happy about. We've got B.L. Maxwell, Chantal Mayer, and me, our friends Connor Peterson, Gabby Gray, Sean Michael, Nick Starr, I have them all written down so I don't forget anybody, Sophia Soames, and R.L. Merrill, and Zio Axelrod. And my story is, Chantal and I were talking, we have a Rec League Rugby series, and so we knew we wanted to set it in that world, and we were talking one day about a character we had, and he's a fireman, and that thing about firemen rescuing kittens from trees? Well, that's not true. And I was like, well, what if he's rescuing one and gets stuck there? And what if he's afraid of heights? And that's how our story got developed. So he's a fireman who gets stuck in a tree rescuing a kitten, and his fear of heights is brought to light in front of all of his friends and his new teammates, and it's really cute and a lot of fun, and I hope we raise a lot of money for the cause.
Yeah. What is the one thing you want folks to take away from the anthology? What is the one thing you want people to know?
That love is love, regardless of who you are and how you identify, and that everybody should be accepted and cherished for who they are.
Okay.
That's
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, Joshua, you have 3 anthologies to talk about, and I don't think you have any stories in them, though, do you?
No, and I'm not even an editor on all of them like usual. I took a little bit of a break this last year on the editing side of things. But they're all being published by Zombies Need Brains. So, and I'm basically the only one running Zombies Need Brains. There are no employees but me. So yes, the 3 anthologies that we're releasing this year that were kickstarted last year. Well, the first one is called Noir. It's basically science fiction, fantasy, noir mysteries. This one's being edited by David B. Coe and John Zakor. It was actually John Zakor's idea, and I proposed it a while ago, and we finally got around to it. And it's basically exactly what it sounds like. They're basically not necessarily detectives and private eyes, but they're definitely mysteries with a noirish feel to them. Some of the authors, I can't name all of them, but some of the authors like Esther Friesner is in it, Alex Bledsoe, Andrija Popovich, Julie Zerneda is in it, and I think her story that's up for an award was from one of our previous anthologies. But we also have like April Lynn Pike and D.B. Jackson, a whole bunch of really, really cool authors and really cool stories in it as well.
And you've got a couple humorists there. I believe John and Esther are most famous for their humorous writing.
Yes, they're one thing about Zombies Need Brains anthologies is that we try to get a wide mix of like themes and tones and stuff. So we have darker stories. There's definitely a couple darker stories in the noir one, but we also like to scatter in some humorous ones as well.
Okay, and the other 2 anthologies.
Yes, the next anthology I want to talk about is called Brave New Worlds. This is the one that I edited with S.C. Butler. And the idea was basically we wanted some science fiction stories with us reaching for the stars. So the stories start off with us leaving Earth, and then in the middle there's sort of stories of us traveling to some other planet, and then the anthology kind of ends with stories when we've arrived at the planet and what might happen there. So it kind of stretches across the whole potential journey of us reaching for another planet. And then the last story, I don't want to spoil anything, but the last story it kind of wraps around. So brings us back to the beginning, which is kind of cool.
Who are the authors in that one?
So some of the authors in that one are, oops, I went to the wrong screen. Okay, we have like Jeannie Cook is in it, Stephen Lay, Austin Habershaw is in it, Ian Tregellis, Chaz Brenchley, J.C. Bedford. So pretty wide spectrum there for the Brave New Worlds. Okay, some, like I said, it stretches across the whole path, so that's kind of cool. And then our third anthology is called Shattering the Glass Slipper. This one was proposed by Rondi Salsitz. So she's one of the editors, along with Crystal Sarakas, who's been a past editor for Zombies. And the idea here is basically, it's not a new idea, but we wanted to kind of upend some fairy tales. So they're all kind of fairy tales twisted and turned around, and you didn't have to stick to a fantasy setting. We got a bunch of sci-fi twists on fairy tales in this anthology as well. And some of the authors in this, we have like Kat Rambo is in it, Patricia Bray, who has been a past editor. She didn't do any editing this time, but she did contribute a short story, so that was pretty cool. We got like Rachel Swirsky, RJ Blaine, Marie Brennan actually sent in a story through the slush pile. That was kind of cool. And it was a really cool story as well. So again, lots of really cool authors and stories that are upended fairy tales in that anthology. And so those are the three that we have coming out. Their release date right at the moment is August 1st. And they're all up for pre-order here and there and everywhere. So check those out.
Great. What is is there one thing that you want folks to take away from all three anthologies, or maybe the individual anthologies? What is it that you want folks to know right now?
Well, I think the thing that kind of bridges all three of them is just a sense of wonder. I feel like, it's been a tough few years, and if we can instill in anybody a little sense of joy and a sense of wonder or a sense of awe over anything, that's kind of what we're shooting for with these anthologies.
Okay, great. All right, next up we've got 5 authors who are in the same anthology, the 3 Time Travelers Walk Into a Bar. And so I'm going to ask Allen to lead it off and tell us about the anthology and tell us about his story. And then I will ask each of the other authors to talk about their stories as well. Okay. So, Allen?
Okay, first I'll talk about the anthology itself, since the editor, Michael Ventrello, is not here with us. Here's the anthology. I'll see if I can... Yeah, okay, there it is.
Alcohol, I'm there.
Yeah. Anyway, it's 3 time travelers walk into ... but it probably into a bar probably is what ends the sentence in most of the stories that are there. It's available as a trade paperback, and also and I understand an online version. A digital version will be coming out pretty soon. The premise of it. It's edited by a fellow by the name of Michael Ventrello, and it's available from Fantastic Books. The premise of the anthology was that he asked a number of writers to take 3 people. Just about everybody did real-life individuals from anywhere in history. One writer did 3 fictional characters, but everybody else did 3 real-life characters. Pick 3 and put them into a story together and having something to do with time travel. And after that, it was pretty much open to everybody else. I get invited into a number of anthologies, and my way of figuring out which ones I'm going to do and which ones I'm not going to do is that if I can, I'll think about it for a while. And if I can think of a story within 24 hours, I'll write them back and say, yes, I can do something. If I can't think of at least a germ of an idea within a day or so, then I know that there's nothing there. And I'll write back and say, I just can't think of anything, but thanks for inviting me anyway. When Michael asked me to have a story in this one, I knew that instant, that very second, that I was going to do a story, because I had, and not only that, but I knew that very second which my 3 people were going to be. And it has to do with this. I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, Deadhead. Been following them for years and years and years. The very first Grateful Dead album I listened to, the one that hooked me on the band, was a best of album called Skeletons from the Closet. Here's the cover of it. That's the CD version. Now, the back cover has this really intriguing picture that is gotten me for years. And that's the photo. And if you don't recognize those three gentlemen, that's Marlon Brando, Jesus Christ, and Cesar Romero. Brando as he appeared in The Wild One, and Cesar Romero as he appeared in The Cisco Kid. You can see a various number of things that are going on there. There's a Damaxian car in the background. Way in the background behind that is the Johnson Wax building. They're playing cards in a bar someplace, and there's a number of accoutrements on the table. I spent a lot of time when I was a kid, usually when I was pretty stoned, looking at this thing, and just just trying to figure out what's going on here. It's such a bizarre painting, and so when Michael asked me if I wanted to do a story, that was the one I did. I said, now I'm going to finally write about it. So my story is called Star Rat's Tale. It's a little bit semi-autobiographical because with a lot of my stories, there's a seed of real life. And so Star Rat is based on somebody who I actually knew in college. He went by another name. So it takes place at a Grateful Dead show that I would have gone to if I had been able to afford tickets. And it has a time travel element to it. And eventually, yes, we see these three people. And anything more would probably ruin the story. So, just trust me on this one. It's a fun story. It's the third story in, and you should go pick it up.
Okay, great. Since I know you have to be elsewhere,
yes,
I'm going to ask you right now to tell us where folks can find you on the web and your social media.
Well, I never look at it, but I've got a website that's allensteele.com, but it's like 3 years out of date. It's got cobwebs all over it. I mean, it's not the most active website you'll ever find. More likely, you can, if you want to actually converse with me or anything like that, I'm on Facebook. And I check in there and I talk to people every now and then. And of course I've got, and I don't mind answering my email either. So if you want to email me that way, talk about stuff, it's steeleallen@hotmail.com.
Okay.
So now I'm afraid I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning and I got to blow out of here. So it's nice to be here. Nice to see you all, and keep on reading.
Okay.
And trucking.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Have a good evening, Alan.
Sure thing.
Okay. Jody, could you tell us a little bit about your story and what you hope folks get out of it?
Well, naturally, I started thinking about who it would be fun to travel through time with. And I came up with, I think, a diverse and bizarre combination. My story is called Into a Chocolate Bar, and it features Julia Child, Dr. George Washington Carver, and Imhotep, who was the great doctor, architect, philosopher, and beloved of Queen Hatshepsut. So had a little fun with that. Mm-hmm. The premise is that they are in search of a recipe. And I'm not going to go into too much more than that because it all has to do with that in the end. But the intricacies of bopping around through time and trying to find ways to get something done and then correct it and following in the footsteps of our dear Bill and Ted in their excellent adventure, you can go back and fix things that you forgot to take care of the first time around, because time travel. But when Mike approached me and said, "Hey, I've got this idea," it sounded like enormous fun right from the very beginning. And being able to choose figures from history was just a natural. I think I knew right away that I wanted to use at least a couple of them, and then filling in the third was a fun approach. So how would they interact? How would they take care of their mission, and under what circumstances? So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All I can think of is, when you said 3 folks, chocolate, and I'm going, how would they manage the recipe when they all have different measures?
Well, that's something that they have to work out.
Henry, what about your story?
So, like her, I was very excited at the prospect when I saw the call for stories. I love the premise of the whole anthology. And so my thought process was, what 3 people can I choose that would be like the last 3 people you would ever put together? People that would have different voices, people that would have very different motivations. And so from the title of my story, I think you can see where I went with that. It's called...
I don't know the title of your story.
I'm going to tell you. It's
okay.
A vampire, an astrophysicist, and a mother superior walk into a basilica. And so I have Neil deGrasse Tyson, Vlad Tepes, and Mother Teresa working there. It's a fantasy with time travel. So an archangel shows up, gives them an assignment, kind of stuffs them together. And so they're uneasy allies going on an assignment for this archangel, and stuff happens, and I won't spoil it, but it was a lot of fun writing. I hope people enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope they get out of it other than enjoyment?
There's no, it's not a didactic story. There's no theme that I'm trying to get them to. No, there's nothing to take away except pure reading enjoyment.
Okay, no, I was just looking for a surprise, an Easter egg, whatever, that folks might be interested in.
Okay, I will mention that when they're first put together, Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's told from his POV, and he's in a room with Mother Teresa and some guy he hasn't figured out who he is yet, but he's clearly from like the 1400s, and he's speaking a weird version of German, and he thinks this is a big prank pulled by his buddy Bill Nye, the science guy. And as the story unfolds, it's the proof that, he keeps rationalizing how things could be. These are actors. They look out a window and they're in Jerusalem. He's like, this can't be, it must be an LCD screen. It's not actually a window. He's trying to come up with a scientific explanation, but eventually he runs out of rationalization and he has to accept the whole weirdness of the situation.
Okay, great. Adam.
My story is called One Last Act at the Time Cabaret. And I may be slightly wrong with that title because it's been a while since I wrote it, but I do remember the story very well. First of all, I was delighted by the randomness of this anthology idea. And I said, there's no way I'm going to pick 3 people you would logically expect to find in the same room at any time. So the 3 I picked were a cartographer named Lansford Hastings, whose great accomplishment was in drawing a map without having gone to the area in question or looked at it or done any kind of research into the area. And it was the map which was used, unfortunately, by the Donner Party. Okay, which ended up in them being stuck in the mountains and committing cannibalism. That's him. The second person is Billy Ritchie, who is a silent movie comedian, one of several people using characters similar to Charlie Chaplin's Little Tramp. He claimed that he made up this character himself and that Charlie Chaplin stole it from him. Nobody thinks Billy Ritchie was more talented than Charlie Chaplin was in any event. Billy Ritchie was eventually stomped into disability by ostriches. It was a very weird event. And the third person was the French cabaret performer, whose real name I may mispronounce. So I'm going to tell you his stage name. Le Pétomane, the Fartiste, whose act was to stand on stage with in tuxedo with the seat cut out and put out candles from 40 feet away.
Oh gosh.
And play music and imitate various nationalities and their accents using his
nether regions,
his bowels. Yes. So I said these three people were made to be in the same room, and I had to do it. And so that's the story I wrote. In the end, I think justice is served by putting those three people in the same room. And more I will not say.
Any Easter eggs?
I can tell you that the Beatles show up briefly, as I believe the Marx Brothers do, but they are seen on stage. They're not the three performers. They're not the three main characters who are brought together for a specific purpose.
Okay, great. Jody, I didn't get the chance to ask. Do you want to share any Easter eggs?
Well, I have a Tuckerization in there. I think I'd better not.
Can you say the Tucker?
Yes, my Tuckerization, as a matter of fact, who appears in the very first line. I am also the very first story. So Stephen Menzel, this nice young man, appears in the story. And if I have described him incorrectly, I apologize, Stephen, but there you are in the story. It's
right up front.
Right up front. It's a lot of fun to do things like this because everybody has a different idea of what the perfect recipe for anything is. So working that in was a treat.
Yes,
also,
go ahead.
Putting in a little bit of the understanding of the times that they were traveling in as well as the times they came from.
Yeah, I just know from all the cooks I've ever met, they all get into fantastic arguments because they're all sure their particular way of doing that particular recipe is the only right way.
And we are all right, too.
I would not argue that. They have cleavers. I don't. No, I'm not arguing. Anyway, Keith, please tell us about your story in Three Time Travelers.
I will gladly do that. So I decided when Mike invited me to this ridiculousness, these stories were all going to be self-indulgent to some extent or other, because we were all going to go for people we liked, and I decided to go completely self-indulgent, and pick three people from three things I'm very fond of. Three things that I am not only very fond of, but all borderline obsessed with are 19th century romantic literature, the game of baseball, and space travel. So to that end, my three time travelers include Mary Shelley, who is probably best known as the author of Frankenstein and more or less the creator of science fiction as a genre. Josh Gibson, who was a Negro Leagues baseball player who died shortly before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in 1947. He was called the Black Babe Ruth, and it is believed, we don't have exact stats for it, that he actually hit more home runs than Babe Ruth did in his time in the Negro Leagues. And Florence Johnson, who was one of the computers for NASA in the early days of the space program, probably best known as being played by Taraji P. Henson in Hidden Creature. So those are the three people I put together.
Is there an Easter egg that you would, anything else about the story you want us to know about, or an Easter egg or something like that?
Not really, because it would kind of give it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. This is not your only anthology this year, is it?
No, it isn't. I was just going to say that those three do actually have something in common beyond being of interest to me. Yes, and I've got 2 other anthologies that are actually out this month.
Okay.
That are out roughly the same time as the 3 Time Travelers anthology. One is a Zorro anthology called Zorro's Exploits, which is being published by Bold Venture Press, in which I wrote a story in which Zorro has to deal with a member of the upper crust of Alta California who is targeting an orphanage, and he has to defend the orphans. And he actually, it also features his main villain, Captain Monasterio, who is put in an awkward position by everything that's going on. And I kind of had fun with the relationship between Zorro and his principal enemy there. And then there's also Crossroad Press is putting out an anthology edited by C.T. Phipps called Tales of Capes and Cowls, which has a whole bunch of superhero anthologies by a bunch of cool people, including C.T. himself, David Niall Wilson, Aaron Rosenberg, and also Michael Boatman, who's probably better known as an actor, but is also a writer. And he wrote a superhero story for this as well. Mine takes place in my Super City Cops setting, which is about cops in a city filled with superheroes.
Okay.
And so yeah, those are all out now, and they're all awesome, and you should buy every single one of them.
Okay, I think everybody can say that about their anthology. Susan, Joshua, I take it you would say that as well about all 3. Okay, is there anything else you want our viewers to know about? I understand, Keith, you have something to do with the apocalypse?
Oh, yeah. We're still in the process of putting together the anthology. My wife, Ren Sims, and I have edited an anthology, and Jody is in it. Adam is in it also, called The 4 Somethings of the Apocalypse, which is going to be the inaugural publication of our new small press, Whisperwood, which we're hoping to have out later this year. There were some delays because starting up a small press is very difficult, and also a couple of the stories came in late. But we're putting it together and hoping to have it out soon. It's basically got, instead of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, you've got the 4 something else of the apocalypse, the 4 lawyers of the apocalypse, the 4 cats of the apocalypse, the 4 septuagenarians of the apocalypse, the 4
lunch ladies
of the apocalypse.
I don't remember what I did. I'm in it, but I don't remember what I did.
Yeah, I don't remember what you did either, and I'm driving a car, so I can't really look it up. But we've got a bunch of really cool ones. Some really bizarre takes. The 3 development executives of the apocalypse, and so on. Michael Ventrella, who is the editor of the Time Travelers anthology, did the 4 lawyers of the apocalypse because he is a lawyer and, write what you know. And the title of his story is my favorite title in the whole book, which is Horsemen, 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 and Horsemen, Attorneys at Law.
That's beautiful.
I love it. Jody, you mentioned lunch ladies. All I can think of is if my mother's cooking ever got out into the wider world, we would have had an apocalypse.
Oh, but that's not mine. He said.
Danielle Ackley McPhail wrote that one.
I think I did the 4 procrastinators of the apocalypse. I don't remember.
You might have. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the cats were mine.
Oh, the cats. Oh. I should have known the cats would be yours. And Joshua, as I understand, you know firsthand how complicated setting up a small press happens to be.
Oh yes, it's such fun.
Yeah, it's a wonder you get anything else done. You're working on what book for you are you working on now?
The next trilogy coming out for me is going to be the Crystal Cities trilogy, and books 1 and 2 are already done, and I'm just trying to finish up book 3 this summer. And they're going to be called Crystal Lattice is the first book, Crystal Rebel is the second, and Crystal War is the third. And speaking of write what you know, my main character is a mathematician in this series, and so it's a fantasy book, but he he's a mathematician. So it's kind of, I'm kind of playing around more with the melding sci-fi with fantasy in this series. So
Okay, cool. Susan, you too, the anthology is a kind of small press item. Do you do other anthologies as well?
I've been in a couple of other anthologies, in addition to the 5 that have been part of this universe. And that's been, one year I did formatting for everything, and that was a lot of fun.
Challenging.
Yeah. Well, when they come in and, with no it was a very, very, very bad, well, not bad, just many hours.
Challenging.
Many hours of, hard returns, and oh my gosh, ugh. But I do a lot of my own cover design, and I really enjoy playing around with that and getting better at that, and playing with fonts. Fonts are my thing. I love going through and picking them out. But with the self-pub stuff, that is sort of like a very micro press, so you're kind of involved in every aspect of it. But I really enjoy it. I like having my hands in everything. So.
Okay, and did you do the cover for
this one? No. Zio Axelrod put this together, so I think she did a very nice job. I've done the covers for the co-written series, the Love and Rugby series that Chantal and I have put out, and the next book in that series comes out in August. We're very excited about it. It's very, very long, so right now we're still doing final edits to try to get it under the 130K that it is. So our characters like to talk.
Okay.
But it'll be fine. It's good. We're really enjoying it. And we just finished wrapping up a novella that's a spin-off of the same series, and that'll be out. We've got one that's got Halloween in it, which is my favorite holiday, and I loved writing that. And then we just finished getting through that one. Actually, today I wrote the last chapter, but I think it needs an epilogue, and she's going to kill me. So,
we won't show her this video. Henry,
I've already texted her.
Oh, she knows. Henry, any last remarks? Any things that you want to promote right now? You got the floor.
At the floor. Well, I'm very excited. So I'm co-editor, and I have a short story appearing in a young adult horror or dark speculative fiction anthology from Blackstone coming out next year, The Hitherto Secret Experiments of Marie Curie. Very excited about that. We've got some very amazing authors in there: Jonathan Mayberry, Shauna McGuire, Scott Sigler, Stacia Deutsch. So very excited to see that roll out into the world.
Okay, great. Adam, any closing remarks before I ask you to tell folks your most current release and where they can find you on the web?
I have no closing remarks, so I'll just proceed to that kind of thing. Except that I hope everybody remains healthy from the that we have, and the same number of people are at this thing. If we do it again in a year, the same number. So with the same voices, I hope so. You can find me at a website which at least the bibliography is always kept current, adamtroycastro.com. And I do essays elsewhere. I have a Patreon account and a very, very active Facebook page where I do a lot of essays and things like that. I publish lots and lots and lots and lots of short stories, and there are 2 magazines online which have between them about 50 short stories of mine, up to novelette length, and that's Lightspeed magazine and Nightmare magazine. I publish about 5 or 6 stories at each magazine each year, and this year this summer I want to point out. I think it's one of the 3 or 4 best stories of the 200 or so I published, called My Future Self Refused, which will be in Lightspeed in August. Okay. And my last plug is my most recent short story collection is The Author's Wife versus the Giant Robot, and other stories. which has about half a dozen stories and is published by Comic Mix.
Cool. Very
Okay.
cool. And just one question before I go on. The hyphen is between Adam and Troy?
Yes, it is. And before you ask the next question, it is just the result of a typographical error in the student newspaper at Cornell in the early 1980s. And I thought it would make a really, really great pen name by virtue of being really annoying. And it has over the years been far more annoying to myself than to anybody else, because I am shelved under T's very, very frequently.
Okay, now good to know. Okay, Keith, what about you? Most recent release, and where can folks find you on the web?
My most recent release are the 3 anthologies I mentioned. I've got coming out later this year. I've got a Resident Evil graphic novel that Tokyopop is publishing. It is a tie-in to the Netflix series Infinite Darkness. It's a prequel to that animated series called The Beginning. It's a 5-issue graphic novel series. That'll be out, I think, in the fall. And there'll be a couple Kickstarters coming soon, and one that just finished for projects that are coming up, including Phenomenon Seasons of Darkness, edited by Michael Jan Friedman, which is a shared world superhero universe anthology that's tremendous fun. And then I'm going to be doing the next book in my Precinct series, Phoenix Precinct, through eSpec Books, which is going to be kickstarting in the fall, along with 2 other novels by F. Deal and Aaron Rosenberg. And probably some other stuff too. I tend to lose track. But you can find me online at DeCandido.net, which is a truly horrible website that looks like it was designed by somebody who learned HTML in 1996, because I learned HTML in 1996. It is nonetheless, despite its crudeness, a very handy link dump to all the different places you can cyberstalk me, including my Facebook page, my Twitter feed, my Instagram account, my Wikipedia page, my writing for Tor.com, my YouTube channel, and my Patreon, which I hope you all support because it's awesome and I need the money. So that's me.
Okay, great. Susan, most recent release, and where can folks find you?
So the most recent release is the anthology that came out on the 14th and is only available through July 14th. You can find me at susanscottshelley.com and also at the shelleyandmare.com, which is the website I share with Chantal for our adventures in co-writing. I'm everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And that's very, very new. There's not much there. And most places I am Susan Scott at Susan Scott Shelley, except Twitter because it won't fit. So
okay, great. Henry.
I'm easily found at the website as my name. It is a modern website. I did not hire Keith to do the HTML. It's just my name, Henry Herz, HERZ.com. That's the best place to find me. I'm active on Twitter and Facebook, but my website is, there's articles and there's a list of my publications, and really that's all there is. So hope to interact with you on social media.
Yeah. One last chance to pimp your work. Most recent stuff. Want to say the titles again? And
oh, sure. So in addition to the Time Traveler anthology, I have a short story coming out that was just announced. The Alien Head Press has an anthology of Halloween ghost stories, and I have my story is The Ghost of Anahodar, which is about Ukrainian ghosts having their way with Russian Spetsnaz. Seemed like the author's way to get back at the Russians. I recently had a middle grade story appear in Metastellar, The Magic Knapsack. So I think I'll stop there.
Okay, great. Jody, what's the most recent release? If it's Time Travelers, give us the title again. And where can folks find you on the web?
Well, certainly I'm very proud of the Time Travel anthology. It's an honor to be the first story in the book. So I hope that you will pick it up and read all the way through, because there's awesome things. And I think Jonathan Mayberry closes the book out. So yes, indeed, he does. I was able to cheat sheet and look at it. Among among all the other things I mentioned, since we're talking about short stories, I'm going to put in a plug for the Writers of the Future contest. Free contest to enter if you are an amateur writer. That means you cannot have sold more than $5,000 worth of literature, or 3 professional rate short stories or a novel. So as a matter of fact, right now, I don't know when this is going to be aired, but every quarter you can submit a story until you either pro out or win. So there's cool things to win. And I will be editing an anthology, co-editing actually with Dean Wesley Smith at the end of the year for the next Writers of the Future anthology, which is a huge and awesome book. It is not every day that a beginning writer gets an illustration for their work, and all of the 12 kids who do win get an illustration to go with their piece. So that's kind of awesome. As for me, I have a bunch of short stories coming out. I'm working on a couple of books that have been sort of dragging during the recent unpleasantness, but I'm getting back on track along with all of my other many projects. I've got a few short stories I don't think that I can talk about because the editors have not announced them yet, but there's cool stuff going on. You can find me at jodylynnie.com or jodylynnie.com. I have a couple of URLs for a recent and still under construction website. You can find me on Facebook, very, very, very occasionally on Twitter, and I just got an Instagram account, so I'll be putting cat pictures in it.
I'm always up for cat pictures, so that's great. And Joshua, please tell us, most recent publication, where folks can find you on the web, and where they can find Zombies Need Brains.
Yes, the most recent publication for me is actually a couple short stories that came out in anthologies that I have nothing to do with, except the story itself. I have a short story that appears in Liminal Spaces. It's a sort of a quiet horror anthology. I provided a story called Mirror Mirror for that one. That's actually already in my head blown itself up into a wider universe. So we'll probably see more Mirror Mirror kind of stuff in the future. But that's a really cool story, I thought. And I also appeared in the anthology Silence in the City. That's an apocalyptic anthology. And my story for that is called The Cloud. So you can find both of those pretty much everywhere. Obviously, we have the 3 new Zombies anthologies coming out as well that I've already talked about. And probably the biggest thing on the horizon at the moment is the Zombies Need Brains magazine called ZNB Presents, which is starting, like I said, July 1st. So we're looking for subscribers. Basically, we're doing a subscriber drive right now. We're running it through our Patreon page. And so just check out our Patreon page. You can just search for Zombies Need Brains. That's pretty unique. And you should be able to find it. So elsewhere on the web, you can find me at joshuapalmatier.com. You can find Zombies at zombiesneedbrains.com. And both of us are, of course, are on Facebook. Like I said, we have the Patreon page. And you can find us on Twitter. My handle on Twitter for myself is at Ben Tate Author. Don't ask. And you can find Zombies on Twitter at ZNBLLC.
Okay.
That's pretty much where you can find all of us on the web. We don't really have like an Instagram or any of the other fancy stuff going on yet.
Yet. You plan to take over the world, but that's yet. Anyway, well, thank you all, and thank you from ConTinual, the convention that's always here when you want to have fun.